October country, that country where it is always turning late in the year, that country where the hills are fog and rivers are mist, where noons go quickly, dusks and twilights linger and midnights stay, that country composed in the main of cellars, subcellars, coal bins, closets, attics, and pantries faced away from the sun, that country whose people are autumn people, thinking only autumn thoughts, whose people passing at night on the empty walks sound like rain. Homecoming. "Here they come," said Cece, lying there flat in her bed. "Where are they?" cried Timothy from the doorway. "Some of them are over Europe, some over Asia, some of them over the islands, some over South America," said Cece, her eyes closed, the lashes long, brown, and quivering. Timothy came forward upon the bare planking of the upstairs room. "Who are they?" "Uncle Einar and Uncle Fry, and there's Cousin William, and I see Frulda and Helgar and Aunt Morgana and Cousin Vivian, and I see Uncle Johann. They're all coming fast." "Are they up in the sky?" cried Timothy, his little gray eyes flashing, standing by the bed. He looked no more than his 14 years. The wind blew outside. The house was dark and lit only by starlight. "They're coming through the air and traveling along the ground in many forms," said Cece in her sleeping. She did not move on the bed. She thought inward on herself and told what she saw. "I see a wolf-like thing coming over a dark river, at the shallows just above a waterfall, the starlight shining up his pelt. I see a brown oak leaf blowing far up in the sky. I see a small bat flying. I see many other things running through the forest trees and slipping through the highest branches. And they're all coming this way." "Will they be here by tomorrow night?" Timothy clutched the bedclothes. The spider on his lapel swung like a black pendulum, excitedly dancing. He leaned over his sister. "Will they all be here in time for the homecoming?" "Yes, yes, Timothy, yes," sighed Cece. She stiffened. "Ask no more of me. Go away now. Let me travel in the places I like best." "Thanks, Cece," he said. Out in the hall he ran to his room. He hurriedly made his bed. He had just awakened a few minutes ago, at sunset, and as the first stars had risen, he had gone to let his excitement about the party run with Cece. Now she slept so quietly there was not a sound. The spider hung on a silvery lasso about Timothy's slender neck as he washed his face. "Just think, Spid, tomorrow night is All Hallows' Eve." He lifted his face and looked in the mirror. His was the only mirror allowed in the house. It was his mother's concession to his illness. Oh, if only he were not so afflicted! He opened his mouth, surveyed the poor inadequate teeth nature had given him, no more than so many corn kernels, round, soft, and pale in his jaws. Some of the high spirit died in him. It was now totally dark, and he lit a candle to see by. He felt exhausted. The past week the whole family had lived in the fashion of the old country, sleeping by day, rousing at sunset to move about. There were blue hollows under his eyes. "Spid, I'm no good," he said quietly to the little creature. "I can't even get used to sleeping days like the others." He took up the candle holder. Oh, to have strong teeth with incisors like steel spikes, or strong hands, or even a strong mind, even to have the power to send one's mind out free as Cece did. But no, he was the imperfect one, the sick one. He was even, he shivered and drew the candle flame closer, afraid of the dark. His brothers snorted at him, Bion and Leonard and Sam. They laughed at him because he slept in a bed. With Cece it was different. Her bed was part of her comfort, for the composure necessary to send her mind abroad to hunt. But Timothy, did he sleep in the wonderful polished boxes like the others? He did not. Mother let him have his own bed, his own room, his own mirror. No wonder the family skirted him like a holy man's crucifix. If only the wings would sprout from his shoulder blades. He bared his back, stared at it, and sighed again. No chance. Never. Downstairs were exciting and mysterious sounds. The slithering black crepe going up in all the halls and on the ceilings and doors. The sputter of burning black tapers in the banistered stairwell. Mother's voice, high and firm, father's voice echoing from the damp cellar. Bion walking from outside the old country house, lugging vast 2-gallon jugs. "I've just got to go to that party, Spid," said Timothy. The spider whirled at the end of its silk, and Timothy felt alone. He would polish cases, fetch toadstools and spiders, hang crepe, but when the party started he'd be ignored. The less seen or said of the imperfect son, the better. All through the house below, Laura ran. "The homecoming!" she shouted gaily. "The homecoming!" Her footsteps everywhere at once. Timothy passed Cece's room again, and she was sleeping quietly. Once a month she went below stairs. Always she stayed in bed. Lovely Cece. He felt like asking her, "Where are you now, Cece? And in who? And what's happening? Are you beyond the hills? And what goes on there?" But he went on to Ellen's room instead. Ellen sat at her desk, sorting out many kinds of blonde, red, and black hair, and little scimitars of fingernail gathered from her manicurist's job at the Mellon Village Beauty Parlor, 15 miles over. A sturdy mahogany case lay in one corner with her name on it. "Go away," she said, not even looking at him. "I can't work with you gawking." "All Hallows Eve, Ellen, just think," he said, trying to be friendly. "Huh." She put some fingernail clippings in a small white sack, labeled them. "What can it mean to you? What do you know of it? It'll scare the hell out of you. Go back to bed." His cheeks burned. "I'm needed to polish and work and help serve." "If you don't go, you'll find a dozen raw oysters in your bed tomorrow," said Ellen matter-of-factly. "Goodbye, Timothy." In his anger, rushing downstairs, he bumped into Laura. "Watch where you're going!" she shrieked through clenched teeth. She swept away. He ran to the open cellar door, smelled the channel of moist, earthy air rising from below. "Father?" "It's about time," Father shouted up the steps. "Hurry down, or they'll be here before we're ready." Timothy hesitated only long enough to hear the million other sounds in the house. Brothers came and went like trains in a station, talking and arguing. If you stood in one spot long enough, the entire household passed with their pale hands full of things. Leonard with his little black medical case, Samuel with his large, dusty, ebon-bound book under his arm, bearing more black crepe, and Bion excursioning to the car outside and bringing in many more gallons of liquid. Father stopped polishing to give Timothy a rag and a scowl. He thumped the huge mahogany box. "Come on, shine this up so we can start on another. Sleep your life away." While waxing the surface, Timothy looked inside. "Uncle Einer's a big man, isn't he, Papa?" "How big is he?" "The size of the box, I'll tell you." "I was only asking. 7 feet tall?" "You talk a lot." About 9 o'clock, Timothy went out into the October weather. For 2 hours, in the now warm, now cold wind, he walked the meadows collecting toadstools and spiders. His heart began to beat with anticipation again. How many relatives had Mother said would come? 70, 100. He passed a farmhouse. "If only you knew what was happening at our house," he said to the glowing windows. He climbed a hill and looked at the town, miles away, settling into sleep. The town hall clock, high and round white in the distance. The town did not know either. He brought home many jars of toadstools and spiders. In the little chapel below stairs, a brief ceremony was celebrated. It was like all the other rituals over the years, with Father chanting the dark lines, Mother's beautiful white ivory hands moving in the reverse blessings, and all the children gathered except Cece, who lay upstairs in bed. But Cece was present. You saw her peering now from Bion's eyes, now from Samuel's, now Mother's, and you felt a movement. And now she was in you, fleetingly, and gone. Timothy prayed to the Dark One with a tightened stomach. Please, help me grow up. Help me be like my sisters and brothers. Don't let me be different. If only I could put the hair in the plastic images as Ellen does. Or make people fall in love with me as Laura does with people. Or read strange books as Sam does. Or work in a respected job like Leonard and Bion do. Or even raise a family one day as Mother and Father have done. At midnight a storm hammered the house. Lightning struck outside in amazing snow-white bolts. There was a sound of an approaching, probing, sucking tornado, funneling nuzzling the moist night earth. Then the front door blasted half off its hinges, hung still and discarded, and in troped Grandmamma and Grandpapa, all the way from the old country. From then on, people arrived each hour. There was a fluttering at the side window, a rap on the front porch, a knock at the back. There were fey noises from the cellar. Autumn wind piped down the chimney throat, chanting. Mother filled the large crystal punch bowl with a scarlet fluid poured from the jugs Bion had carried home. Father swept from room to room, lighting more tapers. Laura and Ellen hammered up more wolfsbane, and Timothy stood amidst this wild excitement, no expression on his face, his hands trembling at his sides, gazing now here, now there, banging of doors, laughter, the sound of liquid pouring, darkness, sound of wind, of webbed thunder of wings, the padding of feet, the welcoming bursts of talk at the entrances, the transparent rattlings of casements, the shadows passing, coming, going, wavering. Well, well, and this must be Timothy. What? A chilly hand took his hand. A long, hairy face leaned down over him. A good lad, a fine lad, said the stranger. Timothy, said his mother, this is Uncle Jason. Hello, Uncle Jason. And over here, Mother drifted Uncle Jason away. Uncle Jason peered back at Timothy over his caped shoulders and winked. Timothy stood alone. From off 1,000 miles in the candled darkness he heard a high fluting voice that was Ellen. And my brothers, they are clever. Can you guess their occupations, Aunt Morgana? I have no idea. They operate the undertaking establishment in town. What? A gasp. Yes, shrill laughter. Ha ha ha! Isn't that precious? Timothy stood very still. A pause in the laughter. They bring home sustenance for Mama, Papa, and all of us, said Laura, except, of course, Timothy. An uneasy silence. Uncle Jason's voice demanded. Well, come now. What about Timothy? Oh, Laura, your tongue, said Mother. Laura went on with it. Timothy shut his eyes. Timothy doesn't like blood. He's delicate. He'll learn, said Mother. He'll learn. She said very firmly. He's my son, and he'll learn. He's only 14. But I was raised on the stuff, said Uncle Jason, his voice passing from one room into another. The wind played the trees outside like harps. A little rain spattered on the windows. Raised on the stuff, passing away into faintness. Timothy bit his lips and opened his eyes. Well, it was all my fault, Mother said, showing them into the kitchen now. I tried forcing him. You can't force children. You only make them sick, and then they never get a taste for things. Look at Bion now. He was 13 before he... I understand, murmured Uncle Jason. Timothy will come around. I'm sure he will, said Mother defiantly. Candle flames quivered as the shadows crossed and recrossed the dozen musty rooms. Timothy was cold. He smelled the hot tallow in his nostrils, and instinctively he grabbed a candle and walked with it around and about the house, pretending to straighten the crepe. Timothy, someone whispered, behind a patterned wall, hissing and sizzling and sighing the words, Timothy is afraid of the dark. Leonard's voice, hateful Leonard. I like the candle, that's all, said Timothy in a reproachful whisper, and there we will pause.